Hey everybody, this is Mike, and you're watching the Reelblack podcast. And today I have the honor and privilege of talking to one of my Ace Boon Coons, one of my dear true friends, one of the people that helped start Reelblack way back in the day. He was my original co-host at our live events, Shannon Newby, and he's got a new project that we want to share with you. But by introduction, he is a writer, a director, a professor, and now the author of a brand new comic book. Welcome, Shannon.
Yes.
Tell us about the
For
book.
having me.
What is this?
Yes. Let me talk about you first. So
Oh,
talk about so yes, we have been friends now forever, going all the way back to like 2001 or so.
something like that. Good 20
Uh,
years. Yeah.
um, I remember the first day. Go ahead. Go ahead. Huh?
No, it's a good 20
I was
years.
gonna say I remember the first day. Yeah, a good 20 years. I remember the first day I met you. It was at some film event, and I was like, yeah, I made a movie, Dirty Laundry. He's like, yeah, I got that from Tower Records. So I go, really? He said, yeah, this is my documentary. It was Philly Boy, and I was like, okay, cool. So that's how we first connected. You had my movie, and I had yours, and
Yeah.
then later on we connected after the fact, and
Yeah.
good
You're
stuff.
more
So yes, you've
gregarious.
been a wonderful friend, Mike. Truly, sincerely over the years.
Yeah. So when we wanted to start the screening series, Shannon
Yeah. So
was my first choice to be the co-host of the night. Because I'm kind of shy by nature, so he helped with that. So, but continued on and
yeah,
on and on through project after project, and acted in some of my
yes,
stuff, and vice versa.
yes,
So,
yeah,
but
good
Munch,
stuff.
before people tune out, Munch.
Much.
My name is David Munch, and I'm about to be someone's dinner. The irony of that is not lost on me. It all started 3 years ago when they showed up in France. Right from the beginning, they let us know humans were no longer top of the food chain.
So Munch is my new book. It is here's a comic book for those who are watching this. So Munch is a science fiction comic book about the origin story. It's like the origin story of Kentucky Fried Chicken from the viewpoint of the chicken. So that's kind of the easiest way to say it. So you think about how a chicken would see Colonel Sanders, and that's kind of what Munch is about. But moreover, it's a story about these intergalactic aliens who crashes onto Earth, and while they're stuck on Earth, they eat some human meat and found out human meat is delicious, and so then they gather up some humans, planet, and say, "Hey, you got to come there and get some of this human stuff. It's the best thing I've ever tasted." So now there's a human resistant from the lead character named David Munch. He's the lead character in the story, and he's helping lead the resistance against the aliens coming down and gathering humans for food. So that's the story on its surface, and like hopefully it's very entertaining. But the underlying story is about empathy and putting ourselves in other people's shoes. So one thing I like to say is that there's a there's a kind of a there's an argument that happens within the story, but it's an argument that never happens. So it's like a sincere. I like to call them sincere arguments. I mean, not the arguments people have in Congress to where people are like pretending they care about something, but it's just off a show. So it's like saying we want to have the sincere arguments, meaning like one person has one position, the other side has another position, and I want them to have that confrontation so you can see both sides of the argument. But in the story, the way it's told, you never have the argument. You just kind of just watching for entertainment purposes. Kind of like Gene Roddenberry in Star Trek, how we deal with all these societal issues, but never actually talked about them in societal terms. Just we're just part of this big space drama. So that's kind of the same idea.
No, it's really funny. It's really clever. I have my signed copy, and I know
Yes.
where before we go beyond this, where can people find the book? I mean, is it in stores? Is it direct order? Is it digital versions? How like
Right. So I'm working on a digital version now. So if you go to, I mean, the easiest, I got a bunch of tags going to the same place, but it's on my website. You go to Munch Comic, MUNCHCOMIC.com. It'll lead you right to my website where you can buy it. I am working on retail stores. I just got my first retail store. I actually got to go over there today and get it all set up. So once it's all set, I'll announce that. But So that'll be up on the website too. But I'm working on the retail locations now. I got a couple things going. I just haven't been pressing it because of COVID, and I haven't been going out to a lot of places yet. But I'm fully vaccinated now, and I'm actually going to start working on really getting into some retail locations as well, and getting it for sale on Amazon, and working on a digital copy. And issue two is being written. It's not being written. It's being illustrated right now. So
So, what inspired you to do this particular story as a comic book?
This story came about, and I always talk about this. People always say, "Where do the ideas come from?" Because I'm known as a science fiction writer because of especially because of the TV show. My TV show had heavy sedation, so people always ask me where my ideas come from. So I always say the easy short answer is I'm weird. I have weird ideas that come to my mind all the time. So that's the easiest way to just say it. But in the long term, this like things always kind of inspire me to tell stories. So this was I was watching a news report about a farmer and they're talking about harvesting chickens and so forth and so on. And the way he was talking about the chicken, I thought if the chicken could hear the way you were talking, I don't think they would agree with the way you were talking about it. It was just a weird thought. Like if the chicken could hear the farmer talking about the chicken, would the chicken think that way? So that's kind of the idea. So humans being top of the food chain forever, how would you feel if you were no longer the most superior? That a quote unquote superior race now dominates you and sees you as food. How would you take that? And I want somebody asked me before about is this about am I vegan? I'm far from vegan. This is not vegan propaganda. It's just kind of a funny look at if you were food, how would you feel? Would you still feel the same way about your food that you do if you were finding something you were food yourself? So that's that kind of idea.
Hilarious. Well, we should talk. I mean, because we do have an episode of Heavy Sedation on the channel about your previous work.
Yes.
I mean, so I mean, like, but yeah, the inspiration to tell stories, but then to do a comic book. I know this is a long time coming, putting a book together and all that. So what made you desire to shift from making film to doing a graphic novel, comic books type story? Because this is your first
Well,
one, right?
I it's my first one, right? So I've been a fan of comic books since forever. I always tell people that Uncanny X-Men 162. For those of my comic book readers out there, if you're old enough, you remember that issue. It was Wolverine in a solo mission, and it just blew my mind as a kid. Like I read comic books before, but whatever reason, that story and the way it was crafted, and he had his berserker rage moments in the story. It just in the big panels or whatever. It just really it just blew my mind. It shifted the way my brain thought about things. So I became a comic book fan from that issue. I mean, from going just kind of casually reading some at 9 years old to reading that, and it changing my outlook on it. So it had always been in my mind from that point that I was going to make comic books at some point. I mean, my first love has always been filmmaking, but I said at some point, I want to make a comic book. So, long story fast forward, at different times in my career, I said, okay, I think I'm ready to go out and make a book, and realizing that the industry was much harder to crack than I had thought. It was much more expensive to make a book in the terms that I wanted to than I thought. And having experience that I had as a filmmaker, as a producer, through my work, getting my first film out there, I realized that I did not want to start a comic book, but create one book, spend all this money to do it, and then basically be at the not being able to get it out there, not being able to sell it, trying to sell one at a time at different conventions. Like I've had to do it with movies and stuff before. I wanted to be able to come in and into the marketplace and actually put a stake in the ground. So this is my comic book company. These are my titles. This is what we do, so forth and so on. And that's how this came about now. So it's something that's been long coming. It's just that now I've got myself in a position that I can actually create my titles, get my titles printed, get them published, get them out there, put them on the website, get them for sale, and not and it's a long-term investment. So as of right now, I'm not making money. And I'm basically still just feeding this baby, waiting for this baby to to grow up and get a job. But as of right now, but I put myself in a position and saved so I can get myself to this point. I wanted to control my own destiny. That's why it's happening now, as opposed to things happening before.
Well, we want the viewers, and I also want you to succeed. So we're all gonna put orders
Thank
in
you.
for these books and have them sent and shipped directly to us. But I mean, so you mentioned Roddenberry. What are some of your? And we also have. I don't know if you watch the channel. Story J talks about Black superheroes in the comic book industry. I mean, what were some of your other inspirations
Yeah.
besides Wolverine and Roddenberry?
It's the Twilight Zone, the old one, the '60s. They try to recreate the Twilight Zone every time, and they keep missing the mark. But it was the old ones, and then even the new ones. They had some good episodes, but the old ones, as a whole, were really really well done in their storytelling. So I'm a big Twilight Zone fan. Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I was a fan of that. I remember watching this as a kid. My dad was a fan of those, and he would watch like the reruns then, like the old black and white episodes. And a lot of those things, like just made such a big influence on me. One of my other bigger influences, I guess we're talking about like filmmaking wise, my top three filmmakers are Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and Spike Lee. So those are my top three, and probably most influential throughout my career. So if you kind of put those together, that's kind of the idea of I guess a lot of times where my writing comes from. But I always actively try to change up the way that I think, and because I give myself writing challenges, like writing prompts, and I would say, write something funny, but don't put anything sci-fi in it. Write something sci-fi and make it serious. Make a drama. Write a love story, make it dramatic. So I write a lot. I'm always trying to. I give myself put myself into basically a box and see if I can write myself out of it. And I think that has strengthened me as a writer and to keep my ideas, flowing and full.
Fantastic. Well, that kind of touches on Heavy Sedation. I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, that's a show that you can watch on Amazon Prime. But tell us a little bit about Heavy Sedation.
I called my friends and said, let's get together and do something. So we got together and made a short film for like $168. Next thing you know, we have a TV show. 2 years later, we're on 48 stations across the country.
I happened upon your program 2 to 3 minutes into it. I was glued for the rest of the episode.
So Heavy Sedation is they call it a sci-fi comedy anthology series. So it's the same actors every week. It's a group. It's a collective of actors, the same actors, and every week and every story they play a different character in a different story. So so 1 week somebody can be playing a doctor, next week they're playing a scientist, the following week they're playing a space alien. Although we didn't do that, but the idea of Heavy Sedation really is like everyday regular folks having something weird happen to them. It's kind of what it is. Like you're an everyday regular person, and something crazy happens to your life. Like a guy finds a light switch that turns off people's eyes, and then he wreaks havoc with that light switch. So the show came about. I know. So the show came about. I did a short film called "Forget Tomorrow" with my very good friend Brian Anthony Wilson. For those who may know who he is, called "Forget Tomorrow." We did that in '04, and WYBE, which was the kind of a second-tier public TV station in Philly. We're looking for content, and I know you told me about that. Say YBE is looking for content, so I gave them my short film, and they put it on, and it did really, really well on the station. And I brought about a conversation. I said, "Well, I can make more of these if you're interested." We shot the whole thing in one day. We had fun. I said, "I can do this. I can make these." And the Forget Tomorrow did go on to win some awards. So then I said, "Okay, well, I can." So they brought about the conversation that I can do more. We can do a show. And there was a little pause in between there because I was trying to do my second feature film that couldn't get off the ground. So we came back and said, "Yeah, we're going to do a show." So in '06, we started this show. Started in August of 2006, and we made the first season, which was a 5-episode season, and then we had a second 5-episode season, and we were in our third season. It was '09, and the recession hit, and by the time we got to 2010, everything just spurred out of control. And so the 11 episodes that exist, episode 11 was, like I said, was the first episode of season 3. That would never actually air on TV, but it is on Amazon Prime. So if you go to Prime, it's on there. It's called Losing Kevin, and then the other one is still sitting in a box on DV tape. So
Yeah. Well, and one episode is on the Reelblack channel as well. So thanks for letting us share it there. Well, congratulations. I mean, you're one of the few people I know when you put your mind to it and you set out to do something. Somehow I look up and it's done. And that's your MO. It's sort of like you talk about it and then I look up and it's like, oh, it's already finished. It's like, oh wow, okay, all right.
yeah.
Let's have you on the show.
My name is David Munch, and this is how the war began.